Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the March 2nd, 2018 edition of the Intuit Developer Friday Morning Hangout. I'm your host, David Leary. I am Intuit's Global Small Business Ecosystem Evangelist. You can follow me on Twitter at David Leary. Today's guest, we have Emily Silberstein. She's a group manager at Intuit. You can follow her on Twitter, ERSILBERSTEIN on Twitter as well. Emily's going to be a special guest. She's going to do an encore presentation of a presentation she gave at QuickBooks Connect in San Jose last November, all about being successful or building a successful app and marketing your app successfully on the platform. So, and the attributes of apps that are successful. Before we do that, just a little bit of housekeeping. If my slide goes to the next slide. So again, for the third year in a row, we are doing the Small Business App Showdown. So those of you who want to be part of this contest and have not gotten on your app on apps.com yet, you have 166 days to do that. So what we do is we take all the apps that go live for the previous year, August 16th to August 16th to August 15th. And we put, there's a public voting phase, there's some other criteria that's on the website, and we take the top 10 finalists to QuickBooks Connect, and the finalists pitch for a chance to win $100,000. Yes, winning the money's fine, and it's great, you obviously want to do that, but really the 10 finalists get a lot of exposure. We just recently took all the 10 finalists to Startup Grind. So we're talking about other ways to get more exposure for your app afterwards. But if you want to do this contest, don't wait till August 14th to submit your app to get on apps.com. You probably want to shoot for a goal of like July 1st. That gives enough time to do the tech review, security review, and then in case you have any new issues pop up along the way. So that's smallbusinessappshowdown.com. I just mentioned QuickBooks Connect. Start penciling this in on your calendar. It's November 5th and 7th in San Jose, California. We will have content for developers. We'll have content for accountants. We'll have content for small business owners. We'll have about 5,000 to 6,000 people at the event. It's the full QuickBooks ecosystem all in one spot. The other thing we will do is we'll do a hackathon. Probably the weekend before, just like we did this last week. We were in London and we did a hackathon the weekend before. So we should do our hackathon. I do not have our information for that yet, but when we do, you can see that. And this event and all events, as always, you can find on the developer site. So it's developer.intuit.com/hub/events. All the Hangouts, any conferences, hackathons, meetups, anything the Intuit developer team's doing, you can easily find these events and then add them to your calendar if you need be. So let me stop sharing here for a moment. And hopefully Emily's camera's on, and I'll unmute Emily here. Good morning, Emily.
Hey there.
Oh, you jumped into screen sharing fast. All right, cool.
Oh,
yeah, no problem.
Awesome.
So before you jump in, just a reminder, everybody, if you are attending the Zoom one, if you're attending via Zoom, use the Q&A panel for any questions you have for Emily today along the way, and use the chat panel for just general chats about the weather. If you're watching live on Facebook, use the comments on the Facebook feed, and I will read those at the end to Emily. So Emily, welcome. Thanks for showing up today to the Friday Morning Hangout. Could you tell us about yourself?
Awesome. I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Emily Silberstein. I'm a group product manager here at Intuit. My focus and my team's focus is on the small business experience of finding, discovering, connecting to, and using apps. So we build all the product experiences of the stores and how customers experience the apps connecting to QuickBooks.
Got it.
Great. So what I'm going to focus on today is really the anatomy of a quality app, what it makes to have an app that's really successful with QuickBooks customers in the QuickBooks ecosystem. So I'll go through a few things. I'll start with the global small business opportunity, which I assume you already know and excited about because you're here and listening. I'll then talk about how you can really learn from your customers and from the QuickBooks customers. I'll then speak mostly about the app card, which is really your front face to QuickBooks customers and how to really optimize that to be the best sales tool for you. And then I'll talk about how you can engage your customers through the experience. And then we'll leave plenty of time at the end for a Q&A. So here's an overview of where the majority of QuickBooks customers are. You see the US, Canada, UK, France, India, and Australia are some of our big markets, although we continue to expand. What's really special about QuickBooks, both the products we build, but also the customers, the developers in our ecosystem, is really focusing on what we call design for delight and making products that really get to the root of customer problems. And that looks like a process that we run and that many of our developers also run, is we start with some core insights from small businesses and accountants. Really, what are those key pain points that they have? And we walk a mile in their shoes. And what we really encourage our teams and developers to do is actually spend time with small businesses. It's not enough to just get on the phone or get on a WebEx, but really go out and spend a day understanding how they use your application, how they have challenges in running their business while everything else is going on. Really seeing small businesses in their context, which we call Follow Me Homes, helps you build amazing product. And then what we do is we prototype very quickly and iterate and get product out to customers quickly, learn, test your hypotheses, and keep iterating before we really launch full-fledged products. And this is really the root of how QuickBooks has been successful with our customers and how we've seen developers scale in our ecosystem. A little overview of who our small businesses are. The majority of our small businesses in the QuickBooks ecosystem are project-based businesses. And we define that as a small business that sells time and services to their customers. So this could be something like we call a field service business, which would be you go out into the field, call it construction, landscaping, or what we call professional services businesses, which are, call it graphic design, consultancy. So these are some of our biggest and most exciting base is project-based businesses. We tend to see those as relatively smaller businesses, such as under 10 employees or even less than that. We then see the next group as schedule-based businesses. And so these are businesses that engage with customers through schedules. This could be a nail salon, a health center, where you make appointments with your customers. And we then see retail as being about a similar size. And those are folks who are selling products. And that could be selling products at a store, selling cupcakes, or that could be selling products online, such as e-commerce. And then we see the remaining businesses fall into two categories, which are membership, such as churches, even nonprofits could fall into this group. And then the last group is small and mighty, which is manufacturing. So these are typically a little bit larger businesses that are actually assembling the goods. And of course, many of these sectors overlap where small businesses are classified. So that's a little bit about who the small businesses are that we target in the QuickBooks ecosystem. So as we said, you're a developer. How can you really learn about the QuickBooks customer so you can really have that empathy to build a solution that's going to really delight customers and help you scale on our market? The first is user voice. This is a tool that we use for our customers to give us feedback. You can see a link here, just intuit.uservoice.com. Go on there and you can see some of our biggest customer pain points, things that QuickBooks isn't solving or isn't solving well. If you're a new developer looking for ideas, this is a great place to go to be able to understand what that pain is for customers that you would be able to solve and really have a ready base of customers who are eager for a solution. Another way for you to understand more about our customers is accountants. They're really the experts in small business accounting, and they're the technical advisors for many of our small businesses. We have a new solution called QuickBooks, ProAdvisor. You can find ProAdvisor matching here, and you can search for different ProAdvisors and search for the ones that are experts in small business apps. Take them out to coffee, engage with them, get their insight onto your solution and to the customer need. Having accountants as in your camp is what really helps small developers be successful with very complicated accounting. So you can see here, here's the Find a ProAdvisor screen. You can pick the third-party app. So those are just some ways to understand our customer base more so you can make a really delightful application for small businesses using QuickBooks. Now, for those of you who are building or have built on the QuickBooks platform, you know we have multiple app stores, really 3 app stores for accountants and 2 app stores for small businesses and accountants. One is apps.com, which is our external facing app store. And that's, if you Google us, where you'd find. And the other, which is our largest app store, is the app store within QuickBooks Online that small businesses who are logged in can access. All 3 of those app stores use what we call an app card. And the app card is really your frontward face to the small business and accountant, where you show them what your application does and why they want to connect. Good app cards and bad app cards make or break how much developers can really scale in our ecosystem. So I'm going to walk you through 10 different ways that you can build an awesome app card and put the best foot forward for your app. The first is, and now this is an old screenshot because they have since improved. The first is add videos and images. This is an app card from one of our 100K finalists when they first came out, where you see basic text, but it's not nearly as engaging without videos or images, which would be right there. So you can see this is where the images would be, but these videos and images are down. So making sure that these images and these links stay up is really compelling for your users. The second is, when you're thinking about images, you only have small real estate, so make it count. Often marketers look at what would be pretty for an app card and what would be, give the right feeling for a brand. So you can see an example down here, the point of sale you can be proud of for any business. That looks like a great business. She looks happy and successful, but this doesn't actually tell you anything about the app. You only have a limited real estate, so if the small business is comparing 4 different point of sales, how are they going to know this picture and be drawn to this? Versus you see here a PowerPoint style picture that actually shows what the product looks like. You get a pretty quick sense that, oh, okay, auto entry, you take a picture of the receipt, I'm going to scan it and type it in for me. That just from that picture and the text, you can really understand what this application does and makes you want to learn more. Small businesses and accountants are busy. They're going to click through these really quick. So something like this will help answer their question about what this app does very quickly. The next is for developers who have been on the platform for a little bit. We have had upgrades to our app card format. And if you go in and update your app, you'll automatically be asked to update this format. So just a few pieces of this. The first is key benefits. You can see here really what this app does. Examples here that I like are client bookings, cancellations, reminders, and payments. This is exactly what they do. It syncs with your Google, your Outlook, and your iCal. This is really the benefit and what this provides, and that's really what small businesses and accountants are looking for. So this key benefit section here, make sure it's not too much fluff, like it helps your small business run more effectively, because every single one of our apps could try to say that versus really explaining what the benefit of your specific app is. You can see these HTML tags in bold font really helps those key benefits stand up. The next here is, how does it work with QuickBooks? Versus an app that you could just be looking at completely outside of QuickBooks, the unique value proposition of getting the app from our ecosystem is that it seamlessly integrates with QuickBooks, and that it helps the small business have their accounting done and their app more smoothly set up and operating. And so here it's very simple to understand what this app does. They sync your customer details, they create an invoice, they record a payment, and you can view the invoices actually when you're in the third-party app. So this tells us very specifically how it works with QuickBooks. And so when you go in, I'd encourage you to update your app card, which you'll get this new format, really identifying those benefits and how it works with QuickBooks. The next is, as you start off, one observation that we have had is Small business app pricing and landscape is changing, particularly as we go down market and see a lot of small businesses who are upgrading from just self-employed and working from themselves. They're very small and they're very price sensitive. So thinking about taking on another monthly subscription, particularly a monthly subscription, that's $50-100. That's way more than QuickBooks. That's a big move for small businesses, and often a barrier for small businesses to take up your app. So we definitely encourage you to have a free trial, but in fact, almost all of our apps have a free trial. So what we really see is some developers that have experimented with pricing have been really effective. So a few things that we found effective with pricing is a freemium tier that really is a freemium tier. So that means, let's say you're a small business and you have 2 employees, that you can actually use the app with no cost. And that then, as the small businesses grow from 2 employees to 5 employees to 10 employees, they've already so ingrained with your app, they will go up to a higher pricing tier, because there's high switching costs for these busy small businesses. But I think the piece to emphasize there is this sniff test. So if you're gonna do a freemium model, do a real freemium model. An example would be a time tracking app that doesn't let you add any employees to track their time. That's not really a freemium. Sure, maybe the owner can track their time, but that's not necessarily the pain point. And we've seen that actually makes customers really upset and tarnishes your brand. So if it's not a real freemium, just don't do it. But we'd encourage you to do one. The next is volume-based pricing versus a monthly subscription fee. So again, customers taking out their credit card, putting on recurring billing is scary. You never remember if you're going to cancel, and if you're going to use the app, or if you're not going to use the app and get value. And that's a big barrier for some of our small businesses sign up, versus small businesses knowing that they would only pay a monthly subscription fee if they used it. Example would be something like MailChimp. Instead of saying a monthly subscription fee, you would just pay per your emails that went over the minimum freemium email. And so in this way, you really know that the small business is getting value, and they're much easier to get over the hump of signing up. And the last one is, think about accountants as a channel. So often accountants are buying small business apps and setting those up for their small business. So how do you think about incentivizing accountants and making pricing that really makes sense for accountants? One example of an app that I think does a really good job on this is called Auto Entry, which what they do is, rather than the accountant having to buy 20 monthly subscriptions for 20 different clients, so now they're shelling out or having to charge all their clients, Auto Entry can buy what they call tokens. And this is the same app that does the receipt scanning, that they can buy tokens that they can divide amongst their clients. So adding a new small client might just be another token, rather than feeling like you have to take out that monthly subscription for each additional client. So really encourages you to add additional clients. You can see here, I think maybe this is Zapier. Oh no, this is House Call Pro. Really based on how many jobs that you do. So this meets a lot of the different recommendations that we have. There's a free tier, and it only charges per number of jobs versus monthly subscription fee. We see about 2/3 of our small businesses really have some anxiety on the monthly subscription fee. So encourage developers to look at pricing. Now, the next is, you'll find what the right pricing model is for you. You guys are experts at your business, and you will probably continue to test and iterate. But remember, if you test and iterate and you come up with new models to help scale your app, you need to update that pricing back onto QuickBooks. And so having your app card updated is really important, because you see small businesses and accountants get really upset if they are prices changing and that's not correctly represented on our app. So make sure to continue to keep your app card up to date. The next is ask for reviews. So on each app card, you can see that there is reviews. It's the first thing that small businesses and accountants typically look at, when they come to the app. Does it have a 4-star above rating? If not, they're going to look pretty closely, or maybe they'll just shut the screen and say, not worth my time. And one of the things that we see is a lot of apps don't have enough ratings to really give credence to that. We see about 5 to 10% of, about 5%, having about 5% of your customers or 100 ratings really helps add some credibility to your app. And there's a way that you can actually get a link here to your specific rating page. So let's say you're engaging with a customer, you can include this link here and ask them to rate. We ask that you do not provide any reimbursement for folks' rating, because we want people to give it an honest rating, but we've seen really great results with people going out and telling the small businesses accountants that use your app, that love your app, to be able to rate and give us great feedback. And this really helps helps others make the decision. There are some details there about how you can get this SS URL to send. Now, when you have reviews, it's great to engage with them. Sometimes you'll have a review that's negative. Sometimes you'll have a review that's positive. And you want to look like you're responsive to your customers, especially those negative reviews. You may be able to say you're on it, you're fixing it, and even just show that you care and are paying attention. So watch out for your app card page to be able to see when people are posting. But if you'd like reminders to know when anybody posts, you can just sign up to this quick little form here, and we'll make sure to get you notification when those are posted. And note, there are some reviews that are rejected. So let's say we see spam reviews. We do have a moderator who runs the review center that does that, and you can get notification if any of the reviews are rejected. Oh, so here is just how to respond to the reviews. You can see the review here. Click on the comment button. Again, really showing that you're engaged and care about your customers. You can see here that even with a negative review, they were able to respond very quickly and say, great feedback. This is something that will get out in the next 30 days. In fact, do you want to be beta testers for us? So it ended up being a win for the developer, as well as showing that they were quite engaged. The next, and probably one of the most important and easiest to solve, is make sure that your app explains what it does. And you probably think you have a great marketing tagline, and that may be compelling for, say, when somebody has come to your site. But if you're a small business and you're at QuickBooks App Store and you're looking at 10 different time tracking apps, how are you going to know what they do and what they do differently? So an example here is Excello, which is a project management tracking software. It says, run your entire business from one place. No idea what that means. So that sounds great, but what part of my business? Is it shipping my products? Is it doing my HR? Is it tracking my projects, which in this case it is? Being able to give a very specific example. Here is save time by saving time. Well, this is your value proposition, but I think almost every single one of our apps is going to say they save you time. That is the value proposition of almost every single one of our apps in the marketplace. So what is different, and what does your app do specifically to save you time? Here's some examples that we like a lot better that says, Acuity, you're going to automate your bookings, your cancellations, reminders, and payments in one click. So you get that it's saving you time because it's in one click, but what's most important here is it's your client bookings, your cancellations, your reminders. Similar, you're going to issue a virtual Visa card in Slack, and it's going to automatically reconcile to QuickBooks. In one line, I know exactly what that app does. So these descriptions, both on your headline as well in the app, really helps customers understand what you do. And the last but not least tip is we see that the majority of small businesses and accountants who come to the App Store find an app through search. That is how they engage with our App Store. Similar to if you think about going to Amazon, you probably mostly engage with products through search. And what we have there is in your app card something called meta tags. And these meta tags here, while saying optional, are really important because that helps us understand what your app does, and search is able to pull that information. And so what examples I would give you for meta tags that can be really effective is put yourself in the shoes of a small business or accountant. Think about what they are searching for that your app would want to come up. And one thing I would make clear here is, again, it shouldn't just say time tracking and save time. People aren't searching for save time. They're searching for multi-day time tracking, right? They're searching for very specific features. We often see customers coming in looking for a feature that differentiates 20 time tracking apps from each other. So some pieces here, I guess that's number 2. Some pieces here, the first one is synonyms. So we actually did a really fun test a little bit ago where we talked to, just like fake bots, all the customers coming to our store in a week. And what we understood is that customers use so many different words to find the same thing. So one example would be, let's say you're an estimation app. You create beautiful estimates to send to prospective customers. Well, the exact same need might exist, but some customers call that a proposal. Some customers call that a bid. Some customers call that an estimate. Some customers call that a contract. Some customers call that an RFP. They're very similar types of functions, but they're just different words that the customer is going to use to get that same job of requesting work done. So think about those synonyms and use those synonyms in your meta tag. The next is what I was speaking about before, which is features. So small businesses come, rather than looking for a time tracking app, they've already decided they want a time tracking app, but now there's 20 time tracking apps that come up. They're gonna not look typically for time tracking. They look for things like geofencing. They look for DCAA compliance, vacation accrual, time rounding, calendar import. So what's really important to them is a specific feature that your app has that other apps in a similar space may not have. So having those both in the meta tags and on your app card are really important, helping you move past kind of high-level marketing speak into really understanding what the app does and matching customers to that. And the last is, we see a number of apps are integrators. They're built just to connect data from one application to another. Some of these could have a number of integrations. Customers will come search for something like HubSpot or Bamboo HR, which could come up as blank, even though some of the integrators actually do support that. So as much within the metadata tags that you can fill, do fill up. And of course, we put character limits on this because customers, developers could put a zillion different words there and put QuickBooks and put every possible thing to kind of do this. So to keep it fair, there's some character limits. So try to optimize based on what you think is most important for the customers. All right. So that is a top 10 ways to optimize your app card. Now you have your customers connected, and that means they hit the connect button. So from QuickBooks to your app and authorized data sharing. So now it's really, we pass the small business account over to you, and it's on you to take it from that connect button through sign up all the way to retaining them. So really that connect button is where we hand off to you, and they now become a customer for you. So the first and most important thing we see is once customers hit that connect button, how do they convert to being a using customer for you? And what we really think about is that first benefit. How quickly can they go into your app and see the value? At Intuit, we call this time to pie, which if many of you have used call it Mint, It's how many clicks when you go into Mint before you get a little pretty pie graph that shows you, here's an overview of my expenses. That is when you say, oh, wow, Mint's pretty cool. It's worth me using it more and going deeper. So what we think about is encouraging developers to accelerate that time to your first benefit. So here's an example with HubDoc, which instead of going through a really long setup process, that setup can come later and that setup can come in settings. They get you right away to get that benefit. You started with your free trial. Great. Email us your receipts. Done. That's all you need to do to start seeing the benefit of HubDoc. Once you see the benefit of HubDoc and you're hooked, great. You can go through all that laborious process later, but get them to that first benefit where they're caught and connected. Another piece is small businesses, if there is setup that needs to be done, which we realize that there will be, when you get into the app, having customized flow for QuickBooks customers makes customers feel confident that they're in the right place and that the data will sync back to QuickBooks, which is a big anxiety when we start talking about customers' books. Here's a really simple setup with one of our CRM apps that just says 4 steps, quick steps. You've already synced it with QuickBooks. Win, right? You automatically connect, so you're able to sync. The next is you're going to import your leads. Next is you're going to invite your team. Pretty simple. Those setup steps are customized for QuickBooks and makes you feel like it's very manageable for you to get progress on. And the last but not least is human touch. We're all technologists, but sometimes it makes a difference to invest in particularly small businesses. Getting an app and changing their workflow is a big investment. Here's a simple way to either do a webinar or say you can book a demo custom to be able to make sure that you're engaged, because once you're hooked on the app, you're going to stay a while. But investing that half an hour up front really makes conversion help for apps, particularly those with complex setups. All right. So last, I will go into one question we often get by developers is, my app's great. My app is amazing for QuickBooks customers. Why isn't it standing out at the QuickBooks App Store? Why isn't it at the top of the mind of everybody at Intuit? What do you really look for on the Intuit's perspective about what you think makes a good app? So here is what on the product side, I think are some of the most important things when I look at apps and the health of our ecosystem and what really makes an app stand out for me. Some of the things that we look for are connections. So when an app has thousands of connections, that's when we know it really has found product market fit and that it really has a solution that is successful for QuickBooks customers. So we have tons of great ideas, but we know a lot of times those ideas really need to be proven and tested. And once you have thousands of connections, we think you're on a really great track. The next is growth rate. Since most of our apps start out small, we really look to see apps growing faster than QuickBooks and being able to acquire more users. The next piece that we look at is your ratings. So we want to see your star ratings both this year to make sure it has, if you've been an app on the platform for 5 years, that it hasn't been decreasing, as well as your all-time rating, because that's really what customers look at. The next is your replacement rate. So while growing connections is great, if you are growing connections and you're getting a lot of disconnects, then that's also a concern that we would have. The next is we try to understand API errors. Realize there's a lot of reasons for API errors, but look at the ones that are developer actionable. And the last, and probably some of the most important, is that conversion rate. How many people end up on your app card, say, this is compelling, and I want to click the button connect? Because that to us says this is an app that really has a high ROI in getting eyeballs for our small businesses and accountants. So these are the types of things that me and my team have kind of dashboards that we watch on a regular basis to really see what apps stand out for us, and I encourage you to look at the same. There you go. So that is the end of the presentation, and we should have plenty of time for questions. Encourage you to log into many of our sites at developer.intuit.com for conversation and resources.
That's awesome. That's great, Emily. For those of you that are in the Zoom, if you have any questions for Emily about this presentation or anything related to kind of things, ways for you to have higher quality, right? When I say quality, like more success for you as a developer, feel free to ask those in the Q&A panel. If you happen to be watching on Facebook Live, please use the comments. One thing for me, Emily, is as you're going through this and you're talking about like the app cards, and we have limits, right? Limits on the meta tags, or you want people to be very clear about their descriptions. Is this trying to get all the people to look at your app card and all the people try to click your app card versus getting a high quality lead? Right? Because I think that one of the worst things apps do, and we've seen this, right, is people think the app's going to do A, it does B, it wasn't clear in the app card, they try it out, and then they leave a 1-star review. Right? Can you kind of comment to that a little bit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, the way that we as a product team think about it is we have a finite number of small businesses, and we have a finite number of connections, and we have a finite number of app card views, right? We want to use those in the best way to optimize across all of our apps, because we want to see the most number of our apps successful. And so what we're going to be looking at is apps that don't have that disconnection rate and don't have that star rate and don't have that low conversion rate. If you have a very generic looking app and you're not converting or you're not retaining because it's not the right app for customers, that stands out as a negative thing for us, versus being able to say, hey, this app is very highly optimized for the customers that it's best for. It's able to really perform effectively for those customers that it's solving that job for. Yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, I can see from a developer, like, yes, you want all 2.8 million QuickBooks users to go to your app card. But if your app only solves the problem for some of them, like communicate to just those ones, because you don't want 2.8 million trials and disconnects. Right?
Yeah, and that's something that we are getting smarter about, to really direct customers to the ones that are going to convert and retain. So we're really investing in making sure that these types of things rise to the top. That apps that are trying to kind of spray and pray approach aren't going to raise to the top of really a data-driven stores that we have.
Got it. That's great. And I think along the way you talked about some links. I have been pasting those into the chat, and I have been pasting them onto the Facebook comments as well. Some of these blog posts that talk about the meta tags or how to respond to reviews. So some of those along the way, so in case people miss those URLs. I'm not seeing any questions come in. Let me flip back over to the Facebook tab and just refresh the page just in case. But I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, you covered a lot of content, but it's very clear, right? If I'm a developer, I can step back and say like, oh, I'm not doing that very well. I should take an action, right? There's not a lot of grayness on what you have here as far as best practices go. Scroll down. Yeah, I'm not seeing any questions come in at all, so we can always wrap up a little bit early. Kind of last final call. Jack, Jonathan, some of you guys that are in the audience, if you guys have any questions, please put them in the Q&A panel. So, Emily, could you speak maybe possibly that, I mean, if I look at over time, right? What if you were to give this presentation 4 years ago versus today versus 4 years from now, right? Like how much you think this is going to, the mindset, how much of this stuff is just tried and true, like this is always going to be true forever versus kind of, hey, this is what's true kind of right now and could change maybe in the future as far as tips and practices?
Yeah, that's interesting. What I see happening in the future is as we get more volume, as we get more developers, it becomes even more data rigorous. And so you could almost call it becomes more Darwinian, that apps that really optimize, pay attention to these things in terms of their conversion, their retention, those apps are starting to rise to the top, and the other apps are starting to rise to the bottom. And that's just a matter of, as the numbers of small businesses and accountants increase, as the numbers of apps increase, as our data science gets smarter, And so right now, a lot of this might feel a little bit qualitative and a little bit of a guess, but that is just the beginning of how I think we'll be able to continue to ensure that the best apps and the ones that are solving the jobs for the customers and the ones that are really delighting those customers kind of rise to the top, and that becomes a very programmatic piece.
Got it. So it's going to be, if you think about like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, there's 20 apps and everybody just got all the eyeballs.
Yeah, exactly.
And now we're kind of in this learning phase where now there's 550 apps. Certain apps are starting to bubble up. Certain apps either are playing the game. Certain apps are solving the problems better. So we're getting better at surfacing those apps and connecting those to the correct customers. But that's only going to, I like to use the word Darwinism a little bit, because it's true, right? Like, because all of a sudden we're going to have 2,000 apps in the future on apps.com. And how do we match those up? We're just going to have to, it's going to be more algorithm driven versus it is today even more. So take note, developers, you have to play the algos to some extent.
Honestly, I would emphasize that if you are delighting your customers, if you are creating an app that is really targeted a core pain point for small businesses, they find your app appealing and they're using it and retaining at it, that's really what you need to focus on, because, don't, as gaming aside, the better that we can invest in the data to represent that, because that's our end goal, right? Our end goal is to have small businesses do more with QuickBooks, to have small businesses retain with QuickBooks, to have small businesses grow with QuickBooks, and to have developers grow and retain and build more apps for the QuickBooks ecosystem. So really the way that happens is when we delight small businesses. And so being able to do that and have the apps that do that, Darwin should come to the top for those delighters.
Yeah, I think I've seen that too. I don't think I've ever seen a bad app game the system and become a top app. Yeah. But I have seen some very good apps not do the necessary steps, either of a bad app card, et cetera, and then they just don't get traction, even though it's a great app. So yeah, you have to, playing the game is not really the right terminology, but you have to participate. You have to be part of the conversation. Yes. You have to do all these things. You just can't get on apps.com.
Yeah. Spending time investing in your app card and your integration is high ROI for customers that you're trying to acquire through QuickBooks.
Perfect. Awesome. Let me just one more quick check for any questions. If not, we will probably wrap things up here today. Let's flip over to the Q&A panel. That's good. Yeah, it looks like you've explained everything super clear, and there's nothing else for anybody else to gain. So, Emily, thank you for attending. Thank you for being a guest today.
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening.
We'll see everybody else next week. I'm going to shut down the Facebook Live and stop the recording. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.